Welcome to Expats Everywhere. Can you tell us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about your background?
I'm Mary Elizabeth Hurst, but I go by Liz. I'm married. I have a baby now, and I live right now in Saudi Arabia. I'm a teacher. Um, really went to school to be a teacher, so I have a master's in TESOL. And Saudi Arabia is a good fit for me right now at this point. I've also lived in Cairo, in Egypt, and Germany during college. So Saudi Arabia, though, is the longest stay I've been here. This is my third year here.
Okay, did you work as a teacher in America?
I worked and during my master's degree, I worked as an assistant, but I had a full-time teaching load in the ESL department. So yes, but it was sort of like I wasn't paid like a full salary. So it's more like an internship, I guess is what you would call it.
Okay.
It was part of my graduate assistantship.
All right, and what country are you going to be talking about today?
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. Do you currently live in Saudi Arabia?
Yes.
How do you like it?
It has its pros and cons, like any country. The life is okay. The job is excellent, so that's what keeps me here.
Okay, so let's talk about your job. What kind of job do you have?
I actually started out as a teacher here, and the great thing about the company I work for now is I've kind of moved up. So now I'm a teacher manager, and I get the opportunity to work with tons of ESL teachers, learn all about them, and actually help them to improve themselves. So it's a great job, and it's at a university, King Faisal University here in Al-Hassa. The great thing about this company is they pay really well, pay on time, and they give you really great accommodation.
Okay, you mentioned paying on time. Is that sometimes a problem in other Saudi schools?
Yeah, well, if you come in on the wrong visa type, you definitely need to make sure that you're coming in on an Iqama, which is the resident visa here. If you come in on some kind of a work permit, you have to be very careful and do a lot of research about that company, because sometimes those work permits can be iffy, right? Because you're technically not supposed to be working on those. So if your company doesn't pay you, then you don't have any grounds to show your contract and sue because you're not on the right kind of visa. So you definitely have to do your research. I know my company has some people on that visa type, but it's okay. It's not like it's a big deal, but you do have to be careful. Just do your research about the company. I know there are websites online where you can go and look at Saudi Arabian schools. The ones where you don't get paid on time, there's tons of information. We weren't paid, we weren't paid, we weren't paid. And believe what you read, because if there's anything there about not being paid, it's the truth.
Okay, so definitely do your research before you commit to something.
Yes.
And you said you want to be on an Iqama. What is the process for getting an Iqama?
It's a little bit lengthy, but for the amount that you get paid when you get here, it's worth it. You definitely have to, you go through a visa agent. So somebody, I think in the United States, it's in Washington, D.C., there's a visa agency that will deal with all of your paperwork. So they send you a list of stuff that you have to get. And for one of them, it's a police record. And I know it took me forever to figure out how to do that in my state, because every single state in the U.S. is different. Also, your medical is a little bit costly if you don't have medical insurance. I know for me, I didn't have medical insurance, and it was so expensive for me to get the medical test, but I did get most of that reimbursed.
Okay, but it's definitely worth going through this.
Yes, definitely worth the cost, the initial cost, because once you're here, you do have grounds. Like if your company doesn't want to pay you, you are on a contract and an Iqama, they have to pay. So there are procedures, especially as a Western worker, if you're from Canada, the U.S., Great Britain, South Africa, Australia, any of those countries, you can definitely get your money in the end if you try to make any charges against your company. So it's worth it.
Okay, so how much should someone budget for that initial startup cost to get this Iqama and to move?
It cost me, I would probably say, around 2,000 US. It cost me almost 1,000 to do my medical. Of course, 800 of that was reimbursed once I moved here. I think I had to wait a couple of months, though, before I got the reimbursement. But I did get reimbursed for $800 of that. I also spent close to $500 US just on different stuff that I needed. Like I had to actually buy luggage because mine was super old, and like I had to, I wanted to get really good sandals when I came here because I knew like it's dusty here. I wouldn't wear I don't wear tennis shoes except to work out because they just get filthy. Just different stuff that I thought would be appropriate for moving here. I brought with me. And then I also wanted to bring at least $500 US cash for me the first month because you won't get paid in any job until usually like you've worked a month or at least a half month. You won't get paid. Most companies, I think here, at least in ours, you get paid on the 5th of every month. So if you come in like the end of August, you're not going to have worked enough to really get a good paycheck in September. You're usually going to have to wait till October.
Okay, and do most or at least some companies reimburse things like the medical or flights or things like that?
They do. It's one of the draws for coming to Saudi. Some companies do the reimbursement for flights. Our company actually books your flight, your flight here and the return ticket every time for you. So you have the flights wherever you want to go, and they're really good about working with you. Now I know other companies in Saudi, they do a reimbursement, so you book your flight in and your flight back. Which I guess both have their pros and cons. I guess if the company books it for you, the good thing is it's already set and you don't have to have that money. I do know that there are some Saudi companies, though, you have to be able to pay for your flight. So that may be figured into your initial cost. So maybe another $1,000 or $1,500, depending on what carrier you fly and where you're coming from. Because I know it's more expensive to fly from LA than it would be from New York.
Okay, and you said you came with $500. Was that enough when you first got here?
Yes, it was. I didn't buy a lot of stuff that first month because I actually was unemployed right before I had been taking care of my grandmother. So I was unemployed. So I actually borrowed the money from family. So I didn't want to like overspend. So like if you want to come and like get, like some people like to nest immediately when they get here. I lived in like a pretty barren apartment for a while. Like there's furniture, there's couches and tables, but like as far as like stuff sitting around, like vases and flowers, I didn't do any of that until I had gotten a full paycheck. I kind of just bought food, which $500 US for food in Saudi is plenty, unless you're just like eating out constantly. Which I've actually found eating out here to be pretty affordable as well.
Okay, so when you first got here, did you have to find your own apartment?
No. With this company and with most companies in Saudi, you live on a compound. So you're given an apartment.
What's a compound?
A compound is basically a walled living area. It's separated from the outside of Saudi, and usually like Westerners can walk around in their normal everyday clothes without having to wear the abaya, which is the black dress that women have to wear here. And usually it has different kinds of facilities on it that people share. Like, for example, we have a soccer field, we have a pool, a swimming pool, we have laundry facilities, we have a gym, we have a area for people to watch movies and things together if they want. We have a pool table, ping pong table. So just like living areas that are shared with other people, as well as like a pretty good area that's paved where people park, but around it I think we've kind of made it into a walking track on our compound, so people tend to walk around and get some exercise that way, because you can't really walk in the community here in Saudi. It's hot, and it's really not encouraged. It's just not part of their culture. So you stick out if you do it.
Okay, let's move back to job stuff. How much can someone expect to earn a month working in Saudi?
I would say that typical salaries start out around $3,000 US. Some companies will pay a little less than that. Some companies will pay a little more, up to like $3,500 US. Now, if you get into like management positions and like that, you can make upwards of $4,000 US. So it's a really good paying job. You're not paying any taxes out of that. And usually your living expenses are only food, because your company will provide housing for you and your medical insurance, which is also a really good benefit of working in Saudi. The medical here is great. It's great coverage.
Okay, so someone can expect to save a lot of their monthly salary?
Yes, if they don't take a lot of trips. The only One of the other perks of working in Saudi is it's relatively close to any African country as well as any Southeast Asia country, which a lot of people like to travel that are ESL teachers. And so if you get breaks, like for example, a lot of people get a spring break or a winter break in their job, and they'll want to travel. So if you don't splurge on those trips and stay in 5-star hotels and book the most expensive flights, you could probably still save a lot of your salary. Some months I've been able to save like 2/3 of my salary, which is great. It's like $3,000. Like that's crazy. A crazy amount to save every month.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your job, what does a typical day look like?
Typical day. Would you like to hear about the manager or the teacher?
Let's hear about both.
Okay. When I was a teacher, the day was quite different. Teacher jobs here are usually great because you work, you go in the morning, you have a little bit of office time to get prepared, then you teach for 2 hours, and the female students here are great. I can't speak for the males. I don't know them, but...
Why can't you speak for the males?
Well, everything here is segregated. So, for example, the women teach only women. So our side of the university is completely separate from the men. So we don't even see the male students really to comment on how they are. But the female students are great. Usually the main behavioral problems that you'll have during the day are just silly things like talking on the phone or just general talking in Arabic instead of speaking English like they know they're supposed to. But usually if you keep a strict system in the beginning, the students get used to it and they usually don't cause you any major behavior problems. And so you teach for 2 hours, you have a 2-hour break in between. That's kind of like your lunch / office preparation or admin stuff, whatever you need to put in. And then you have 2 other hours of teaching in the afternoon. We do have a little bit of a problem with students being absent in Saudi, but our program is good because they actually are accountable for that, and they only have a certain number of absences that they can have. So I found that for most teachers, if you have a halfway decent class, this ends up not being a problem because they realize that it's going to affect their grade, and they're like, It's good in King Faisal University because they count the PYD classes, which is preparatory year deanship. Those classes, the English that we're teaching, they count towards their GPA. So because of that, they are encouraged to kind of come to class, do their stuff. So it's a better setup than I know in other universities, and you have to do your research on this. In other universities, they don't have this system. So basically the English classes are just, sometimes you'll have 50, sometimes you'll have 5, and you never know.
Okay. So if someone's planning on moving to Saudi Arabia, what should they pack? What do they need for work? What do they need for their downtime, men and women?
It does definitely depend on the job. I know, for my friend that works here in Riyadh, she has to wear black skirts, long skirts, of course, to the ankle, and white tops. But at our job, you just have to wear long skirts to the ankle and tops that the sleeves come to the elbow and you're not exposing a lot up here. Otherwise, everything else is you can't wear. You can wear pants at our job, but they have to be loose fitting, and your top has to come basically mid-hip or knee length. It's just basically very conservative clothing, even when you're inside the school. You don't have to wear your abaya, the black dress, once you're inside the university, because it's just all women. So you can wear your actual clothes. You do get to see your clothes. And for shoes, I would say probably you need dressy sandals. I wouldn't wear heels. As a teacher, I never wear heels because that's just awful. You're standing a lot. Definitely wouldn't wear anything like Birkenstocks. You can wear Birkenstocks, but they're not usually as dressy enough. We've been a little lax with the dress code lately. I would say that you need to look professional. So try to bring shoes that are appropriate for work, but I wouldn't wear heels. You can also wear closed shoes, but I would buy leather Shoes, if you're wearing any kind of like loafers or anything, I wouldn't buy cloth because here they will get filthy. Like even walking just from the compound to the bus, to the school, they'll get filthy. So I would buy leather so you can wipe them off.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about a typical day of teaching and what a teacher should wear. As a manager, what's a day look like, and do you wear the same things?
Yeah, I dress the same as my staff, of course. And I have a little bit of a different day though. My day is usually like a question mark. It starts at the same time as them and ends at the same time as them, but I don't know what's going to happen during my day. I have a lot of stuff that I have to deal with, so I have to manage. You know, we have 20 right now. We have 23 female staff members, so I have to manage all of them and make sure they have all of their materials. I have to coordinate a lot with the Arabic staff that we have, who coordinates with the university staff. So it's a lot of talking and collaboration. I also have to collaborate with the male side because in our program we try to match and make them equal and fair. So I have to, do a lot of like phone calls, emails. Like I probably get average of 25, 30 emails a day. So it's a lot of typing and talking on the phone and just general coordination. I don't usually have to deal with students, so that's the big difference. Like whereas my teachers are dealing every day with students and with the admin staff, the Arabic staff, I'm dealing mostly with the admin staff and the men's side. So it's actually quite different. I do miss dealing with the students sometimes, and sometimes I've actually asked to like walk in and take over a class just because I miss the actual interaction with the students. They're quite lovely.
Okay. Let's change gears a little bit and talk about the safety of Saudi Arabia. Do you feel safe here?
I feel extremely safe here. I think the media hypes up everything that goes on here a little bit too much. I think it's good to be cautious. I think it's good not to stick out. So wearing a abaya, when I go out, I actually also cover my hair, just because I think it's good not to stick out. But I wouldn't say that I've ever felt personally threatened here, or that I felt like my safety was somehow in danger by being out. Our compound is actually really secure now. We have a pretty good security in place just in case something happened, but I think those are all just precautions that we take in case something happens. The country of Saudi Arabia is safe though. I mean, I think you're probably more likely to die in a car accident here than you are for somebody to actually shoot you. It's not as easy to get a gun here as well, which is another good thing. They don't have where at home everybody has guns. It's rare here to find people that can actually get a hold of a gun. It's more difficult to get a gun here.
Okay, you commented on the driving. Do they not drive well, or?
Well, Saudi Arabia is the only country in the world where only males drive. And in my opinion, when you have all that testosterone on the road without the balancing effects of women drivers, you sort of get a good impression of what the driving is like, and it's basically just selfish, overbearing. They don't follow the rules. It's almost like there are no rules. So yeah, they have the highest accident rate in the world. I think that sometimes freaks people out, but I've been here 3 years and I've never been in an accident, knock on wood. But I've seen them, and on a weekly basis, just about. And usually they're just fender benders because somebody was going too fast and didn't want to stop through a traffic circle, which is where actually most of the accidents occur. So of course, in a traffic circle, you're not going at high speeds, but they do sometimes have accidents here that are deadly. You have to be careful. Wear your seatbelt. That's their problem. They don't wear your seatbelt.
All right, interesting. So earlier you mentioned that the medical was good, the medical insurance. Have you experienced having to use the medical insurance, or how do you know it's good?
I personally have actually probably in our company have the most use of medical insurance. So the first year I was here, I have a little bit of a heart condition that's not bad. I have an arrhythmia, and the first year I was here, I don't know whether it was just the change in climate or what, but I had to go immediately to the ER. And I didn't even have my insurance processed yet, and so I had to pay out of pocket at a private hospital, which only cost me about, for the emergency room and all the tests and everything, only cost me $350 US.
Wow.
Yeah, for everything. Of course, I got reimbursed for that after my insurance. I was given my insurance card. So yeah, it was super cheap.
And you felt like the doctors were good?
They are. Most of the doctors here are not from Saudi. They're either Egyptian or Jordanian. Occasionally, they'll have an American or British doctor on staff. I know in Riyadh, they have several hospitals like that. They also have an Aramco hospital that is in Dammam, which is really has a lot of American doctors in it. So I know like some of the women in Aramco who have children, small children or stuff, they have pediatricians there that are actually American on staff.
Okay, can someone expect to be able to speak English comfortably at a hospital here?
Yes. All of the nurses are mostly from the Philippines. You'll notice that if you live in Market, Saudi Arabia, most of the workers are foreigners. I don't know what the Saudis do. They're mostly like Rosie. The nurses are all Filipinos. They speak really good English. They're very friendly. They really like when Americans come to the hospital because Americans tend to treat everyone pretty nice. We're nice. That's what they say. So they really enjoy and appreciate the kindness, and so they treat you really well. I know I had the heart problem the first year, and then I had a child here, and everyone in the staff for having the baby was excellent. And then this year I had my gallbladder taken out. Absolutely no problems with that. Everyone was very friendly.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had a baby in Saudi Arabia. What was that like?
Well, yeah, you can hear him probably. He's fussing. It was interesting. I was worried about it at first because in Saudi Arabia they have such a strict segregation that I was afraid of little things like my husband wasn't going to be allowed in the delivery room, or like my mom wasn't going to be able to come here because it's hard to get visas. But in the end, everything worked out. I got my mom here on a visitor visa, so she was here when the baby was born. And because I went to a private hospital, my husband was allowed in the delivery room. So my husband and my mom were both in the delivery room, which is what I wanted. I was induced, which inducing here is a little bit different than at home, but it still was okay, and the baby was born naturally, absolutely no problems. For any of the moms who've had babies, they'll know that I had to have an episiotomy, and the doctor that did it was excellent. Like I didn't get an infection. They take really good care of you. They have good aftercare. The hospital that I went to is Western managed, so it's basically set up exactly like how hospitals are at home. So like you have appointments after your birth that are set up like a week and then a couple weeks and then like a month later. So it's set up really good to take care of you and make sure you don't get infections. I didn't have medical insurance for my child. I do now, but I did have to wait a little bit for that. But again, the money that you're making, if you have to pay out of pocket for anything for your child, like the pediatrician or any of that, is super cheap. Like I think the appointments are like $30 US, so I can afford that. Yeah, so it hasn't been a problem, and they're really good with vaccines here. You can actually go to like health department clinics here, and they'll give the vaccines. So my child is fully vaccinated, and it's cost me maybe total for all of his vaccines through his first year, it's cost me $50 US.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have any complaints about either the hospital or things you didn't like that they did?
I think you have to be someone who pretty much follows the traditional Western medicine. They don't have anything here for like if you're wanting to do like a I've forgotten what that's called.
Like a water birth, or
they wouldn't have anything like water birth or the woman who's the woman that's
the midwife?
Yeah, they don't have midwives here. They do have someone to help you with breastfeeding because breastfeeding is really big here. So they do have the people on staff at the hospital who can help you with that if you're first time with breastfeeding. So that's good. But otherwise, like everything's pretty traditional Western medicine. So if you're looking for an alternative birth or you want to have it at home, that's probably going to be pretty risky because I know like the emergency services here are not very good. So they have ambulances here, but they're just not very fast. Nothing in Saudi is fast. So I if you were gonna do that, I would go back home for that. But if you're just gonna have a natural childbirth, or you have twins and you need to have a C-section, they're very good at C-sections here. They have a lot of C-sections because they have younger mothers who have babies, and younger mothers a lot of times can't have their child naturally, or they have complications. And I'm talking 15 or 16. I'm not talking like 9 or 10-year-olds. I'm talking like 15, 16-year-olds who are already married and have children. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So would you have a baby here again?
Yeah, I probably will. I plan on being here another 2 years. So
Okay.
I probably will have my second and hopefully last child, unless there's a, accident. But yeah, I probably will have the other child here, just because of the cost. I mean, the medical system is good enough here, and they have so many children that they know everything about this. Like, I probably wouldn't have an open heart surgery here, just because I would want to have the opinions of the westernized staff, right? But for something as routine as like a gallbladder surgery or having a baby, they're very good at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So overall in Saudi Arabia, what are some pros and cons of living here?
Pros and cons. Pros, the money. The money is just great. The vacation time. In my job, we get lots of vacation time. The accommodations, really good. I can't complain about that. The cons, I can't drive here, and I drove myself everywhere since I was 16, so that was a big change. Having a husband, though, makes it easier because he's here and I have a car. But it's difficult when I just want to go get in the car and drive to the grocery. Like, I have to be dependent on his schedule as well. So yeah, that's a definite con. Also, I would say probably just when you go out, you do have to wear like the full garb, and sometimes it's hot wearing that, and it's annoying too because it makes you almost feel like you're not yourself. I don't know. Something about women with fashion, it's kind of like we state who we are with that, and it can be discouraging to have to like cover all that up.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I guess the last thing is probably a lot of people get upset because, sorry, the babies get upset. I guess people expect like to be able to go out and socialize here. There's nowhere really for you to do that. There are no movie theaters here. There's not really anywhere that you can go and hang out except at the mall. And as far as meeting locals, they're not going to hang out with you because people don't hang out with other people that are not in their family. It just doesn't happen. So more than likely, you're gonna need to make friends with the people who work with you and live on your compound, which can make for a complicated situation sometimes. But it's okay. I mean, if you keep an open mindset and you're a positive person, you shouldn't have any problems with making some friends. But most of your hanging out and doing stuff will be on a compound.
Okay, great. Liz, thank you so much for talking to us about Saudi today.
Sure.
One other question. Do you want to show us your baby?
Sure.
All right.
You want me to go get it?
Yeah. All right. How old is your baby?
He's 11 months.
What's his name?
This is Yasin. Yasin, look at the camera.
Yeah.
You see yourself?
Hi.
It's just about nap time, so he's not going to be super smiling.
Okay. Well, Liz, thank you so much.
Thank you.